Alright folks, we're back. It's Let's Play Panzer General. I'm the mysterious JG, and it's getting to be time to end this. The Allies didn't really move to, secure these last two objectives, which means I feel like we can do it right here. Suppress them as best we can. I'd really like to win on this turn, but I don't quite think I can. I'll certainly try. Okay. I don't think I can bring myself to care about that submarine anymore. Let's see if we can eliminate this unit without having to spend any forces there. Okay, that didn't go as well as I'd hoped. Is it time for America to fall? I think it might be time for America to fall. Come on. Should I save the Oh no, you guys are out of fuel. Can you possibly get over there? No. Can you get over there? Oh, crap. I really don't want to spend another turn. Rugged defense. Damn it, I was really hoping this wouldn't happen. Force them out of there, damn it, if you can force them out of there. Oh, damn you! They're even out of frickin' ammo. Just make them retreat. That should be it. Yes! Because they got hit by two different suppression bombers. And the Jag Panther, the greatest unit in my army, will win the war. Major victory, major victory, major victory. God damn it! Oh, how much faster did I need to be able to do it? Jesus! Oh well, let's see what the briefing says.
Your capture of Washington has allowed us to negotiate a favorable peace treaty with the Americans. But their ability to create and test an atomic bomb has kept us from uniting North America and Europe. Your brilliant leadership throughout this war will long be remembered in the coming years of peace.
Crap. We have like 6 turns left. I mean, how fast do they want you to do that? Well, I left myself open to a lot of comments from a lot of smartasses who are not playing and recording their successes and failures about how I should have gone through and extended the war with the Soviets and blah 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 blah, or how they could have done it. But you know, winning it with 6 turns to spare seems like a pretty good accomplishment to me. So I guess what I'm going to have to do is, I don't know. Let me see if I can't figure out a way to win this thing a little bit faster. I don't really know what else to do, folks, to make it go any faster than that. What's the most recent save that I had? July 13th to June 25th. Eight turns remaining. I think I need to do more to change it than this. I don't know, folks. I'll go and research and see how far away I was. What I'll probably do is off-screen my way back just so I can show you the proper real ending. Because I've already played through it once on camera. I feel like if I fell like 1 turn short, you know, be off-screening to that point, showing you a major victory is probably good enough. But to tell you the truth, I've had about enough of Panzer General for this particular moment. So this video will either be really short, or I will cobble and edit it together with something that I'll record later. But just in case, this has been Mysterious JG. This has been Let's Play Panzer General. It's too bad that we couldn't crush the Americans before they could develop the nuclear bomb. But certainly, now that the Germans rule Europe, I feel no reason to believe that there won't be a long 1984-style Cold War where America, too, becomes a fascist state and continues its non-stop war against another fascist superstate on another continent, and you know, we'll find out that like top secret is that we're not actually at war with Eurasia at all, and all that whatever Orwellian stuff. But yeah, I'll have to do some research to see just how much faster I needed to win to get a major victory, but I've recorded way too much of this Washington campaign to not use what I've recorded, to just start over and pretend it didn't happen. So I'll have to figure out something. Anyway, and like I said, all of you guys who are, you know, able to play the game and, you know, loading the game whenever things go poorly, or using hidden units off on your turn and then putting them back on the computer's turn, or whatever it is you're doing, you know, you can brag about how much better you are and how you would have won major victory and I couldn't pull it off, whatever. But I'm like, I feel like winning in as many turns as I did wasn't too bad, especially because I rolled with every bad luck thing I had. Like when my Messerschmitts were totally devastated by one British propeller plane unit, I rolled with it. I lost a lot of bombers. I made some mistakes. I figured I would be vindicated if I just drove through and won fast enough, but apparently it was not to be. So we'll have to see, folks, if I can get a major victory off screen and show you the proper ending for the game. But either way, this has been Mysterious JG. I mean, frankly, how badly did I want the Nazis to take over the world anyway? I'll have a lot less guilt when I play Allied General eventually. But for now, bye-bye. I'll see you guys later. Remember this, folks. The Germans tried to take over America, but a time traveler prevented us and got the nuclear bomb going in time to stop us. And his last words before he stepped out of frame and into the distance were, "Auf Wiedersehen, schmucks." Alright, folks, welcome. It's Let's Play Panzer General. I'm Mysterious JG. For me, this is a new video. For you, I'm putting this together with the last video for even more fun video times friendly excitement 2000. If I can. We'll see if I can. If I can't, I'll figure out something. At any rate, here's the deal, folks. We had a disappointing result of our invasion of the United States. We, as Zaymont and Tomax tried to warn us, to launch a sneak attack on Washington is one thing, but to hold U.S. territory is all but impossible. Because the Americans dropped nukes on the Wehrmacht, and as we found out in the last video, although I can't go back and play, it's not the last video, it's earlier this video, I can't go back and play because I saved over it, but yeah, basically we were told that there will now be peace between fascist Europe and under German leadership, and North America, which will presumably stay a democracy, although presumably, in my opinion, will become a fascist superstate itself, and we'll have like a modified 1984 scenario. 1984 basically was an English guy writing a book in which England became kind of part of a American fascist state. The only difference really between this and 1984 is that England will be part of the German fascist state, but America will still be fascist superstate, and there'll be a fascist superstate in Asia. There'll be like Eurasia versus North America, or whatever the heck. I forget how they're divided up, but yeah, that seems like the sad future. Wouldn't it be a more pleasant future if the entire world was dominated by German fascism? If you think so, I probably don't want to meet you. But at the same time, folks, that is what we've been going for in this game, trying to take over the world with Germany. So, off screen, I played through again, and I got a major victory.
Your early capture of Washington has forced the surrender of the United States before they could successfully test an atomic bomb. North America and Europe have been successfully united under common leadership, and all the other nations of the world are courting German favor.
You'd better believe it would be.
The world is at peace. Your brilliant leadership throughout this war ranks you among the greatest generals that have ever lived, and you will be remembered as the greatest Panzer general in history.
Yay! We're the greatest Panzer general in history, folks. How'd I do it? Well, like I said, I did it off screen, but basically, at the end of turn 1, your prestige is set back down to 500. As far as I know, that is always setting a prestige down. I do not believe it is possible to spend 30,000 prestige in one turn. But you've got one turn to spend it, because presumably this represents the entire force of the German military being at your disposal to set up the attack, but your supply lines are so extended, you can't just deploy new troops in the middle of the battle easily like that. So basically, once I knew this, at the end, I did turn 1. I bought. I'm not sure why I didn't do this anyway, since I might as well use all the prestige I have. I guess I didn't realize, I didn't realize that the prestige was going to disappear at the end, after turn 1. But I went back and I did it again, and didn't record this time. I just played through, and I bought I think it was about 6 more Heinkel jet fighters, 6 more suppression bombers, and about 6 more Tiger II tanks, all of which start out with 0 in experience. But so yeah, they were not as useful as my core units that had a lot of experience. But having 6 extra jets basically allowed me to defeat the U.S. The Army Air Corps, which I have been erroneously referring to as the United States Air Force throughout this entire battle. In fact, I've probably gotten a lot of comments from it by now. The first video of the Washington has not been posted as of my recording this one, but I might remember to put it in one of the video descriptions early on. But yeah, for those of you, there may have been people commenting by now, yeah, it's not the United States Air Force, the USAF. That doesn't come into existence until 1947. This is the Army Air Corps. But I was able to defeat them faster without losing my bombers, or any of my bombers. I didn't lose all my bombers last time. I lost a few of them, though. I still did lose 1 or 2 units, even with buying another, it was 15 to 18 extra units that I bought and played through again. I still lost some units because I was rushing really fast to try to do it fast enough to get this ending. So you get a relatively short little speech from the German dude. He calls you the greatest Panzer general in history. They're not really able to gloss over how ridiculous this is. The United States of America would not surrender to an enemy just because they were able to take over Washington, especially if to have the major minor victory mean anything here, they've got to set it up so that if you get a major victory, you get a surrender, and a minor victory, they'd keep fighting. They do that a few times in Panzer General and Allied General. The idea that, you got a minor victory in England, so they were able to mount a counterattack, but if you got a major victory, they would have surrendered. It's like, it's hard to credit, especially because the United States is like, it's almost as big as Russia. I mean, well, it's not almost as big as Russia physically, but compared to Germany, it's huge, just like Russia is. And while it was kind of vaguely unrealistic that Russia would like outright surrender and there wouldn't be any more resistance or problems there if you took Moscow, it made a little bit of sense because that's where the rails are centered. And what would have happened, I think, if Germany had taken Moscow rapidly and decisively in World War II, is that they would have been fighting a guerrilla war against insurgents like forever. Even if the Red Army organization collapsed. And that's what would be going on in America. They would, this series, like a chronologue, the Nazi paradox and stuff, anything based on the Nazis taking over America, it was never really going to happen, but not unless the Germans somehow developed nuclear weapons first. And the idea here is that the Germans, win a conventional war before the Americans can deploy nuclear weapons, and the Americans would have been rushing through the development of nuclear weapons and gotten them faster, had this been a real possibility. Just like I think it's acceptable that meteors are deployed in this game, the Great Britain's jet fighters. I think it's acceptable to me that they're deployed because it seems like they would have been rushing through development of them. Although it's weird that they wouldn't just hand them over to the Americans. The Americans wouldn't be allowed to build their own. But the Americans are going to be building nukes in places other than Washington. Obviously, they didn't build nukes in Washington in the real war. And the American capital would be transferred to like Chicago or someplace in California, someplace the Germans would need to fight for a ways before they would get to it. They wouldn't just turn things over to the Germans. However, it is worth noting that it would appear that even in a minor victory I got, which some of you are maybe making fun of me now, I couldn't get a major victory. Like, I came so close to getting major victories in all the scenarios on my first try recording, which would have been pretty sweet. I was a little worried about that. Years later, I can come back, get major victories in all of these scenarios on the first try, when I don't have the option generally of going back and calling a do-over if I screw up. If things went really bad in any given video, I could scrap the video and start the video over, but I didn't really do that much. I think I did that once, and I was just pissed about how things went and didn't feel like finishing the video anyway, and I just ended up going back to an earlier save. But it's not like I was doing that routinely, so I feel like I got my major victories fair and square, except for this last one. And this last one, I just wanted you guys to see the proper ending. But in fact, what I got, a minor victory, means that the Germans rule Europe and not the world. That's fine, because getting a quicker, like winning by 5 or 6 days earlier in North America, or even a month earlier, conquering Washington really wouldn't have changed anything. They still have an extended war to fight. And I like the idea that when I got them, I think in a way the minor victory where the Germans are forced to retreat, but they hold Europe, is even more impressive to me, because it means that the American military was forced to drop nuclear weapons in the vicinity of Washington, D.C. to destroy the Wehrmacht units there. I mean, think about that. You drop a bunch of nuclear weapons on Washington, D.C., you turn the entire capital area into a nuclear wasteland. That would be called the Capital Wasteland. The Capital Wasteland. How did it come to this, sweet America? Anyway, so that's it for Panzer General. You click again. You get the same movie that you get when you lose, and it kicks you straight out to DOS, which I never really got. You get kicked out to DOS regardless, folks. If you lose, any scenario where you lose and it's game over, like, you failed to conquer France and you get the message saying, "We are now committed to a protracted war. Your services are no longer needed." You get kicked out to DOS with that same movie that you get when you win Washington and win the entire game. So it's weird like that. But that's it for Panzer General, folks. I think I'm done. Next LP from SSI. And I don't know that I'm going to pick this up soon, but I could try to pick up this game, Panzer General Forever. I wanted to play Allied General. I wanted to just play Allied General straight up, but Allied General... shut up, Windows. Allied General I cannot find a way to install Allied General on my computer. It is a Windows 95 game. I cannot play it in DOSBox. I have tried. I cannot make it work. So, the best I can do is Panzer General Forever, which is the free online game that allows you to play... Actually, let's go back. Let's talk about those monster trucks. Panzer General Forever allows you to play Panzer General, Allied General, Cuck General, which I think is something that the designer of Panzer General came up with himself, although maybe it's a mod that was available from somebody else, and Kaiser General. I don't know what KUK General is even about. Kaiser General is somebody taking the SSI Panzer General platform and trying to use it to make a World War I game. Take a experimental game. Do you wish to try it? Yes. Curiosity campaigns: 1914 West, 1915 West, 1915 East, 16 West. You can play as the Axis. The default is that the computer is the Allies. Is that the default on everything? So this is somebody who wanted a World War I simulator, where you always play as the Allies. It would appear that the scenarios are all set up for you to play as not the Axis, but the Central Powers, which would of course be the German Empire under Kaiser Wilhelm, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and I forget, Italy switched sides. I think they started out on the Central Powers and switched. Play as the Axis. Let's turn off hidden units. Let's take a quick look at what this game is. This game does not have any recorded voices for anything, of course. It is imperative that we regain the initiative on Mesopotamia by launching a counterattack to retake Ket El Amara. First, you must help the Turkish to resist the new English offensive at, can't pronounce that, second attack Kert El Amara. And I don't really know what they got Turkish flag. There's Baghdad. The Turks are in Baghdad. The Turks are our allies. The Ottoman Turks are our allies, and we're supposed to be driving the British out of. So this is interesting. It's a battle that's taking place in Baghdad, and there's the Euphrates and the Tigris. I don't know that much about World War I history, so I don't really know if there was a battle that went on over here. Beirut, Jaffa, Jerusalem. Jerusalem would have been part, of course, of the Ottoman Empire at this point. It's a really contentious thing to even talk about, so I'm not going to fall into the trap of doing it, but obviously a lot of the current political turmoil that's going on with Israel and the Middle East, the state of Israel didn't exist at this point. It was founded, Dead Sea, it was founded, as part of the aftermath of the World Wars. So at this point, the ocean. This is, of course, the Persian Gulf. Anyone's about geography. Where's Mecca on this map? Mecca's probably south of where this map cuts off. Yeah, well, anyway. Yeah, this is the Middle East. It's Baghdad. I'm way northeast of where any of this can possibly show you stuff. Let's exit. So that's Kaiser General. I'm not going to play that. Sorry. You know what, I should have looked at some of the unit types that are available, but I'm thinking it's mostly cavalry and stuff. KUK General, I don't really know what this one's about. 1914 South, 1915 East, South, East, 17 East. Our annual military exercise, you can learn the usage of the Austro-Hungarian weapons against an imaginary enemy. Despite the terrible weather, that's Bosnia, Carpathians. Despite the terrible weather conditions, it was time to push the Russians back from the pass of the Carpathian Mountains. Romania. The joint forces of the Central Powers invade Romania, which entered into the war just recently, encouraged by the Entente. I don't know if this is just a different game set in World War I. Can you defend the Empire with an army that doesn't want to fight anymore? The KUK army attempts to destroy the last pockets of resistance in Italy. Hypothetical scenario. Yeah, I don't really understand this one. I think it's like, again, you play as the Axis, so it's the people who are big fans of this game. I mean, I'm a fan of this game. People who are really big fans of this game make me nervous because they do tend to have German Social Democrat Party leanings sometimes. The Russian Empire was exhausted in this war, and the Tsar was forced to resign. The authority is split between the Provisional Government and the Bolshevik Soviets. Though the Bolsheviks are willing to make peace, the new Prime Minister, convinced the general staff to attack our lines in Galicia with their remaining reliable troops. Intelligence reports that they will attack between Brody and Stanislav. You are ordered to halt their advance and then to start a counteroffensive to capture several objectives. Yet another Russian fiasco may help the Bolsheviks take over and thus make peace in the east. So it appeared to be a different game in which you play as the Central Powers against the Allies. And I don't even know what the frickin' flags are here. They've got flags that are probably supposed to... UK infantry, German infantry... I mean, they're not going to use the German flag from World War II. Of course, the German national flag, the Nazi flag, isn't even used in Panzer General. They use the Black Cross to represent Germany. Because they don't want to use any Nazi symbolism. So that's those two games that I believe are fan-based efforts. They may or may not... For some reason, I assume they came from the guy who made PG Forever. I don't think they necessarily did. But what I was going to suggest that I might play at some point is Allied General. Here's the problem with Allied General. It's missing most of the bells and whistles that you'll remember from Panzer General. Allied General is, in fact, in most respects, a superior game to Panzer General, but I'm not going to be playing Allied General. I'm going to be playing Panzer General Forever Allied General, which means that I'm going to be playing a freeware effort by some guy out of the goodness of his heart to recreate Allied General, where most of the effort went into doing stuff like improving the AI, and very little of it went into efforts like trying to get the bells and whistles back, because this is like an armchair general, serious strategy gamer fan thing, and I like some of the stuff that's missing from this. What's missing includes the voice acting, the movies that play before each scenario begins, and the victory movies when you win a scenario, and the animated battles, like, you know, Tiger tanks shooting cannons, and then you get an explosion, and the cavalry gets blown up, and the little guy falls off of the horse and catches on fire. That's going to be missing. Except that I actually have the real Allied General disc. At least I had one. It's back at Leatherneck. I'm currently at CAF, but I got the files off of it. I was trying to use this to install the game, and it wouldn't work, but it means that I've got a lot of stuff. So, although it's kind of clunky, I can go in and I can play the mission briefs. So check this shit out, folks. This is what we're going to probably have to try to do. Campaign, North Africa, start. Sir, as you well know, since September the Italians... Well, let's try this.
Sir, as you well know, since September the Italians have pushed as far east as Sidi Barani. Whilst they may have suspended their advance, their presence remains a threat to the stability of the region and to our reserves of petrol. High Command has instructed us to proceed at top gear with the resources we have to hand and dislodge the Italians from the Libyan colonies.
So, problems include the fact that the background music doesn't shut off because I'm having to play it in a totally different player. So let's go into settings and kill the music. Kill the music. Now we could go in and we could do Russia, and we could start, and we could do it different, like.
Tovarish Commander, we have received the final order from Stavka. We shall cross the border into Finland tomorrow. The party commissaries heard some talk among the men about us attacking the Finns without provocation. He would like you to include in your morning orders a reminder of the reports we have that Finnish units fired upon our troops as we massed on their border. He says that he will also notify the men to expect the population to welcome us as liberators who will deliver them from the capitalist oppression of their upper classes.
And you'll notice something else here. This map is a different shape from the map that we just saw. I can only really play this effectively in full screen, which means tiny, tiny, tiny icons. I haven't found a way to zoom in. If I try to do anything other than full screen, the game gets really, really unhappy. And there are some scenarios where the full screen will actually show you, this full screen area will actually be used. But it still means tiny icons. It's just that you have a much bigger map that you're working in. Like in this mission here, where you're trying to take over the Mamas and the Papas. You're trying to take over... I think you're attacking Bulgaria? I don't even remember exactly. I should know this, but my geography ain't that hot, especially in Eastern Europe. Maybe this is like Yugoslavia, or maybe it's Bulgaria. Maybe we're still in Russia at this point. But the point I'm getting at here is, like, this is what we'd be dealing with. Tiny icons. I can't just zoom in Cam Studio's capture window to only grab the part of the map that's useful, because you won't be able to see my cursor commands over here, which I assume some of you are paying attention to. And like when I select a unit and want to get information on the unit here, like this guy, oh, the information does pop up in the middle, so you would be able to see that. But yeah, you see the point I'm getting at. Anyway, folks, that's it. Panzer General is over. I spent a decent chunk of the video talking about how I'd be able to play Allied General, and as you can see, playing Allied General is going to be somewhat flawed. Example, artillery, shooting at infantry. That's what battle looks like from now on. Cavalry rides up to try to destroy them. That didn't go as well as it should have, but I don't care. It was just for display. So it'll actually move faster, probably, because I won't be showing you all the... you won't be getting little movies. And there were people who were complaining that they wanted the movies shut off, and I told them pretty early on in my Panzer General LP, shut up, I like the movies. But for them, this would be great. Yeah, but this is about how the combat's going to go. There, for example, I don't really know what happened with the flak. If it just failed to shoot them down, or for some reason didn't get off a shot, did it shoot them and suppressed a few? I don't know. I don't know. That kind of thing will probably frustrate me with time, but... seems that these guys just have really good defense against flak, because they flew right over that guy and bombed him, and he didn't get destroyed or anything like that. So yeah, that's what this game is about. It'll probably be a little while before I get to this, because I need to take a little SSI break. But what you can do in this one, when you're done patting me on the back and telling me what a great LP it was, you can tell me which scenario you'd rather see, the British scenario or the Russian scenario, because the American scenario is just like the British scenario, but it doesn't start until halfway through the war, because it's basically West Front versus East Front, but you can play as the Americans or the Brits. But the British have a scenario that starts in 1941 in North Africa, and the American scenario starts basically as they get ready for the Overlord invasion. So there's really no point in me doing both, which means basically the two things that you could potentially see are me doing British or me doing the Russians. Both of them have their positive points. The weird thing about the Russian one is that it starts really, really, really hard, and gets easier as it goes along in one respect, because the Germans are putting up a lot less resistance. But in an attempt to, I think it's creditable, in an attempt to simulate the difficulties of leading an army with Stalin as the political leader, the expectations become increasingly unreasonable. So you have a battle that you could win, but very little time to win it in if you want to get what's considered a major victory. So it's kind of interesting. Like this is one where I think you have to really race, because as you can see, we've got the Germans pretty outmatched, it looks like, early on. But I'm not seeing any Air Force at all here. But yeah, you don't get much time to work with. So there you go. With the British, the battles start out quite small. The game, I think, kind of assumes you're going to start with Britain as the earliest starting point, and it kind of gives you almost a tutorial mission against the Italians in a way, and then the difficulty ramps up. And that one, it does seem to get harder as you go in a way. Although again, the big thing with the Allied General at the end is that the victory conditions tend to be you can get a miner relatively easily, as the Germans, obviously as you beat on the Germans, you're fighting them starting out at their high point. That's why it makes sense that with the Russians have such difficult campaigns at the beginning, scenarios at the beginning. But as the game continues, what you're really fighting against is time, because as the Russians, you're fighting to try to take Berlin before the Western Allies do, and as the Western Allies, it's vice versa. So that's kind of interesting, because that obviously was a very real political undertone to what was going on, the decisions that were being made. Patton famously didn't want the tanks to stop. He wanted them to keep rolling east and take out the Russians while we were there. But yeah. So think about which of those two scenarios you'd like to see. The other thing is that I've got the movies. Is there little scenario movies? Maybe I'll show you those real quick to make this an extra long video before we end it. Although I do have to think about which movie is which. I already showed you the British briefing with music in the background interfering, and the Russian briefing. So, although you'll see one of them or the other again in the next video from SSI, which might be a little while away, these are the two intro movies. Look at them, give it a little thought. I'll probably make my own call on this one, but you guys can tell me which one you'd rather see, if you'd be interested in seeing anything at all. Check it out. The intro movie for the scenarios. Takes the form of the newsreel, which I think was cool. And when you played Allied General, this was a much smaller screen, and they had this framing device that looked like a movie screen.
Desert Duel. January 1942. Italy has struck into North Africa, intent on creating a Mediterranean empire. This opens the way for the German war machine to secure the gateway to the Middle East. If the Axis succeeds here, the Wehrmacht can slake its growing thirst for oil with the bottomless reserves of Arabia. Germany has sent the best to lead the best. Erwin Rommel will lead his newly assembled Africa Corps. He plans to use these same Panzer troops which captured Poland with terrifying speed and ferocity to crush the greatly outgunned British troops entrusted with holding Egypt. The British have little to sustain them besides their bravery and wits. It will have to be enough, for any hope for an Allied return to Europe rests on their
That would appear to be a large artillery piece, not bravery or wit. So I'd say that they do have guns. Yeah, it might be outgunned, but they do have guns. So that's the British one. You'll note, too, that Panzer General does not have anything like that before or after its campaigns. In part, this is because it was the first game, and this was a sequel, and somebody thought, well, that was a good game, and it sold pretty well, but what can we do to spice it up a bit? Let's throw in some stuff like that. But you'll notice, if you play Panzer General 2, they also don't bring back the newsreel device. And in Panzer General 2, you can play as both the Allies and the Axis. They bring it all together into one game, but they don't bring in that newsreel device for anything. And I'm thinking the reason is that while it's really fun and kind of inspiring to have like the patriotic, gung-ho, go America, go Britain, even go Russia messages in the game, it would get really weird and awkward, especially with the big victory one at the end when you conquer America, to have a newsreel piece of Nazi propaganda. That would just give the game kind of an unfortunate tone. So let's I think I remember how this was. Britain, Russia, America. I think this is the one I want to play now. This is what we would get at the beginning of the Russian one. So let these two fake newsreels wash over you and give you an idea of which campaign you think would be more interesting to see. See the French flag in the bottom left corner. We used to like to pretend that France was still part of the war. Made us feel better about having let them get crushed that easily.
War with Russia? November 1940.
stop doing that.
Most of Europe has fallen to the German blitzkrieg, and Britain stands as Germany's last major opponent, suffering under the aerial bombardment of her cities. Because of the infamous Russo-German non-aggression pact, much of the world has feared that the Soviets will eventually enter the war as another member of the Axis. But in the face of boundless German ambition for conquest, how long can the tenuous peace between these two military giants survive? Surely Germany's jealous eye has turned toward the Soviet Union and her fertile plains of black earth.
Love this movie. So nice.
Her vast oil fields. Her massive industrial capacity.
You got the big industrial capacity was.
It seems only a matter of time before the Wehrmacht attempts what even Napoleon's Grand Army could not accomplish. The conquest of Russia.
That's it, folks. The end of this video is long overdue, but I wanted to give you a flavor of the 2 campaigns from Allied General that I'm thinking about playing. I'd have to get pretty desperate to play more SSI before I went in and played the American campaign of Allied General. But I really love the mission briefings from these games. I think, universally, the guys who give you mission briefings in Panzer General 2, be they the I don't remember the American one that well, but the British one I didn't like as much as the British one from this game. The Russian I didn't like as much from the Russian in this game, and the German guy really just didn't live up to me to Ludwig von German guy from Panzer General. And part of it was just because I had a really strong sentimental attachment to the voice actors in the earlier games. But Panzer General, sorry, hit my mic. Panzer General 2, I guess it's not impossible. But Allied General is the one I want to play next. But it'll be a bit of a break, folks. So give it some thought. In the meantime, you can check out Mr. Critic's LP of Panzer General, see if he does any better than I did. He certainly talked a lot of smack. And just hope you enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed watching us cross the rest of the world. And can't be that loud. I got neighbors. So it's too bad. I'm ending this ragingly Nazi LP, and I'm not in a room right now where I can sing or do an accent or do much of anything. And so it's time to bring this to its end. However, I've been the Mysterious JG. I hope you enjoyed watching me almost take over America. And I hope you will enjoy me and getting a little bit, feeling a little bit less guilty and weird about eventually getting to play as either the heroic the heroic Tommy standing up against Jerry, or playing as the Soviets in protecting the people and the peasants and workers' deputies from the horrible invaders. Either way, folks, there will be more of this kind of thing to come in general eventually. But for now, that's it. So I'd like to say, Auf Wiedersehen, schmucks. This has been Mysterious JG. Fare thee well, and goodbye.